Sabi nga ng internationally recognized business genius na si Mr. Warren Buffett, derivatives are financial weapons of mass destruction. At sa episode na ito, asahan yung i-explore natin kung paano nga ba naging sandata ng mga nasa business parlance ang iba't ibang uri ng derivatives. For now, prepare yourself and join me sa isa na namang diskusyong puno ng kaalaman, kasiyahan, at kasanayan sa episode 12, Derivatives, Forward, Futures, and Options, dito lamang sa Team Yay!
Bagong barkada, be the best every day!
Sa last episode, nakasama ninyo sina Kuya Kiki at PB na nauna nang magbigay kaalaman patungkol sa derivatives, specifically about interest rate swap, ano? Dito sa bagong episode, makakasama ninyo ako para naman mas palalimin pa ang ating kaalaman pagdating sa iba pang uri ng derivative, which include forward, futures, and options. Pero bago ang lahat, let me give you a glimpse of what is expected for you guys to learn by showing you the objectives of today's episode. Okay ba yun? Okay. At the end of our discussion, first, you guys are expected to understand the recognition of forward, futures, and option contracts. Also, it is expected for you to know the concept of an embedded derivative and, of course, to know the measurement of the host contract if the embedded derivative is not bifurcated. Oh, kalma. Daming technical terms, no? But don't worry because Kuya Ali is here in the journey with you as we go along the discussion, okay? So, ano pang hinihintay nyo? Simulan na natin! Start our discussion with a quick recap, ano? Well, from the last episode, you guys have learned that derivatives are financial instruments whose value depends on the value of its underlying. In other words, may security or asset that needs to be delivered in the future date, and the value or price of that derivative is based on that specific underlying. Examples of underlying are stock price, interest rate, exchange rate, and of course, commodity price. Before I introduce to you how these derivatives work, mahalagang malaman nyo muna kung bakit nga ba ginagamit ang derivatives, ano? Well, technically, mayroong two main uses ang derivatives. First is a speculation, o yung paggamit mo dito to take a position in the expectation of a profit. At under nga ng IFRS 9, speculative derivatives are automatically recorded as fair value through profit or loss, and you charge the mark-to-market value to profit or loss. Another is the use of derivatives as hedging. Kuya Ali, ano ba yung hedging? Well, hedging refers to the use of derivatives as protection against price fluctuations na ang pangunahing aim is to reduce or mitigate the risks associated with the everyday management of corporate cash flow. That you know the use, it's about time para naman i-introduce ko sa inyo ang iba't ibang uri ng derivative instruments as well as the common hedged items. So, ano, kaya pa? Kaya! Just like what I have said earlier, some of the most common types of derivative instruments o tinatawag ring hedging instruments are interest rate swaps, forwards, futures, and options. And later, mas malalaman nyo pa yung mas malalim na gamit nila. For now, let me discuss first the hedged items na usually associated to every derivative transactions. Una is the firm commitment. This simply pertains sa commitment na mayroon nyo isang entity o business party sa isang derivative contract na either may right o obligation na magbenta o bumili ng isang produkto at a future date. Second is the highly probable future transaction na tumutukoy naman sa mataas na posibilidad na mangyari o maganap ang isang transaksyon sa hinaharap bilang consequence ng pagpasok ng isang party sa isang derivative contract. At panghuli, fixed to floating at floating to fixed na applicable naman para sa interest rate swaps. Ngayong alam nyo na ang pagkakaiba ng hedging instruments at hedging items, it's important to note and classify them according to their use and purpose. Tandaan, in classifying such things, ang titingnan muna ay kung ano ba yung underlying hedged item dito para ma-identify natin kung anong hedging function ito under. So, we have two main hedging functions. First is fair value hedge o yung protection sa paggalaw ng halaga ng isang asset, at cash flow hedge o pagla-lock-in ng halaga ng future cash flows. So, first, firm commitment. So, dito, may commitment ka to do something or to buy or sell something in the future at fixed na yung price mo at the very start. Hindi mo hinahedge yung cash flows dito. Ang hinahedge mo rito is the fair value. Again, if fixed na yung cash flow, fair value hedge. If variable pa yung cash flow, it's cash flow hedge. Okay? So next, highly probable future transactions. So ano yan? Well, hindi mo pa alam yung inflow or outflow mo in the future. So this is cash flow hedge. Hedging the cash flow. Gets? For fixed to floating and floating to fixed, you focus on the original terms. For fixed to floating, so from fixed, cash flow na siya, gagawin mo lang siyang floating. So you're hedging the fair value since fixed na yung value on the original term. Sa floating to fixed naman, ang original term natin is floating pa, yung cash flows. That means, di mo pa mape-predict yung cash flow. So, you're hedging the cash flows. So, that's cash flow hedge. Gets ba? Okay. Now, one thing to remember, very important, is yung basis mo of fair value hedge or cash flow hedge is the hedged item, not the hedging instruments, okay? Remember that, ha? Madalas dyan nagkakamali kasi yung ginagawang basis ay yung hedging instruments. So, you might wonder, ano ang importance ng pag-identify ng mga yan? Well, that's because their treatment depends on their mere classification. If it's fair value hedge, ang gagawin mo sa hedging instruments, you mark to market and you charge the changes to P&L. For hedging items, you also mark to market and you also charge the changes to P&L. So both of them, the hedging instruments and hedged items, basta under ng fair value hedge, you mark to market and you apply the changes to P&L. So, obviously, hedging instrument mo is a gain. Dapat yung hedge item mo is a loss. Kasi yun yung essence ng hedge accounting eh. The purpose is to prevent the fluctuations to your profit or loss. Tama? So, nag-offset sila. If naman loss yung instrument mo, dapat gain naman yung item. Sa cash flow hedge transactions naman, you mark to market the hedging instrument. But this time, you charge it to other comprehensive income or OCI. Okay? For hedged items naman, you simply apply their normal accounting, okay? Kuya Ali, ano pag sinabing normal accounting? Well, that simply means na kung ano yung applicable standard sa kanila at yun yung susundin. Kunyari, inventory yan, edi Philippine Accounting Standards 2 o PAS 2 yung gagamitin. Kapag PPE, edi PAS 16, and etc. I guess medyo bombarded na kayo ng information, but don't worry because now we will start digging deeper into each of the other three hedging instruments starting from forward contracts. By definition, a forward contract is an agreement between two parties to exchange a specified amount of commodity, security, or foreign currency on a specified date, also called as the settlement date, which is in the future at a specified price or exchange rate. So, ang key point lang na tandaan dito ay lahat sa kanya ay specified. From the amount up to the price or exchange rate, maging sa future date, lahat sa kanya ay specified. Well, that explains its very nature or about how it really works. And to further understand it, allow me to discuss it to you via illustration.
At the initiation of a forward contract, one party agrees to buy an asset from another party, not today, but a specified settlement date in the future at a specified price. This price is known as the forward price. By convention, the party who agrees to buy is called the long, and the party who agrees to sell is called the short. Neither party makes a payment at this point. Forward price is based on the current market price of the asset, also known as the spot price, adjusted by the cost of carry of the asset. Once the contract is initiated, it becomes locked in as the contract price. Over the life of the contract, if the spot price rises, such that the expected future price is above the contract price, the long will have a positive value, while the short will have an equal negative value. The opposite is true. If the spot price goes down, such that the expected future price is below the contract price, the short will have a positive value, while the long will have an equal negative value. What happens on the settlement date depends on what is specified in the forward contract. In a cash-settled forward contract, the difference between the contract price and spot price is calculated. If the spot price is higher than the contract price, short has to pay the long the difference. Conversely, if the spot price is lower than the contract price, long has to pay the short. Cash-settled forward contracts are also known as cash-settled for differences or non-deliverable forwards.
To better understand the recognition and measurement of forward contracts, let me present to you the pro forma and just some examples.
I will now be discussing to you the journal entries under forward contracts under two cases, kapag mas mataas yung market price kaysa sa forward price at kapag mas mababa yung market price kaysa sa forward price. Tulad na nabanggit kanina, kapag mas mataas ang market price, receivable po or ang entity ang babayaran. Kapag naman forward price ang mataas, ang entity ang may kulang. That's why payable. So, I'll just make it faster, So, before we recognize some journal entries, of course, we need to do some relevant computations muna. That's why I opted to present the computation process first, then sa baba ang journal entries. So, to compute for the market price by the end of the year, you just have to multiply the number of units to the market price on the end of the year. Then subtract the underlying price, which is computed by multiplying the number of units to the forward price, and you will get their difference to be the forward contract receivable. It's expected to be positive kasi nga mas mataas yung market price. Sa settlement date, pareho lang. It's just that market price on the settlement date na yung gagamitin. Tapos kukunin mo din yung difference, expected to be positive. So you just have to offset the two to one another for you to get the net increase or decrease in the forward contract receivable. Okay? So sa journal entries, tatandaan lang, by the end of the year, only one lang naman yan. Which is the recognition of the receivable amount. So in here, you just have to debit forward contract receivable and credit unrealized gain. So ang value nila ay equal sa gain mo during the end of that period. Sa 2024 or sa next year, ayan, settlement date yung gagamitin. So kung kailan nakaset yung obligation. Ang tatanda mong entry una is to recognize the purchase of the asset. So you just have to debit purchases and credit cash kasi babayaran mo dahil forward contract ito, units times forward price. Kasi wala ka naman choice kundi sundin yung forward price. Unrealized gain, forward contracts, then credit forward contract receivable just to formally recognize na ito yung gain ko during the settlement date. Ngayon, you need to get the net gain. So yun yung kaya tayo nag-minus dito, 'di ba? Kaya tayo nag-offset kasi i-recognize or ilalock in natin yun sa cash pati sa purchases. So that's pretty all it lang naman. And sa payable naman, all the same. It's just that this one expect it to be negative kasi nga payable. So mas mababa ang market price kaysa underlying price, negative amount payable. Same process for the settlement date, same process for the offsetting. Journal entries, same lang din naman na isa sa end of the year, then 4 sa next year. Dito nga lang, dahil payable na ang recognize mo, naka-credit siya. Ang naka-debit sa'yo ngayon is the unrealized loss, which is equal naman sa forward contract payable mo at the end of the year. Walang pinagkaiba sa purchases, ganun pa rin, units times FP. Dito, again, unrealized loss na yung ni-recognize mo, that's why ito yung naka-debit, but noted na ilalaki niyan sa other comprehensive income. Tas, you just have to, recognize the forward contract payable during the settlement date. But you have to get the net loss, kaya tayo nag-offset, diba, dito, just like what we did sa gain. And formally lock it in sa cash pati sa purchases. So that's pretty all it for the contract. You know what? I think you can further understand it using a problem. So allow me to present the problem later. Now, allow me to present to you the computation for problems 12-3 and 12-4 para mas maintindihan nyo yung naging discussion natin ng pro forma. So, in here, I opted to include the problem here, pero pwede nyo naman basahin siya sa book. Hindi na natin babasahin fully dito, kunin lang natin yung mga important details, like yung date na July 1, March 1, of course, December 31, 2023. 1.5, that's the FP. 5,000, that's the number of units. Tapos, 1.8, ang market price on December 31, 1.7 naman on the settlement date. So, punta na tayo dito. Market price, again, makukuha by multiplying the number of units to the market price on December 31. So that's 5,000 times 1.8. That's 9 million. Underlying, it's the number of units multiplied to the FP. So that is 7,500,000. So giving us 1.5 million forward contract receivable. Pagdating na settlement date, same lang naman yung value ng underlying price. It's just that dito, instead na sa reporting period ay sa settlement date mo na mo-multiply, which is 1.7 in our case. So dito, 5,000 multiplied to 1.7, that is 8.5. So, ayan, nabura ko ata to. So, ayan. 8.5 minus 7.5, that's 1 million forward contract receivable on the settlement date. Just have to offset them to one another. On the settlement date, we have 1 million. And on December 31, we have 1.5 million. In a sense, we have a decrease of 500k in our forward contract receivable. For our journal entries, dito walang problema. Ito lang naman yan. Kasi siya nga yung December 31. Pagdating dito, this one is actually equivalent sa difference nila. Yeah. In this case, it's 500k. Hindi ko na ita-type. I mean, hindi ko na automate kasi baka negative mag-appear, but yeah. Sa cash and forward contract receivable, you just have to recognize magkano ba yung on our settlement date. On our settlement date, that's 1 million, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. That's 1 million. Dito pala, since there is a decrease, tama pala. Unrealized gain dito sa taas kasi nga nagkaroon ng decrease. Di ba na-report mo na dito na 1.5 ka? So dito, ibabalik or ibabawas mo yung 500 na decrease. Ayan. So, pagdating dito, ilalock in mo lang yung same amount ng net sa purchases. Ay, no, hindi pa pala. Ang purchases mo ay number of units, pasensya na, number of units, that's 5,000. Tapos, kung magkano yung exercisable sa date na yon, ay yung market price sa date na yon. So, that is 5,000 times 1.7. That's 8.5 million. Giving you a locked-in amount of 1 million for our deductible or yung i-close mo sa purchases. So, in a sense, masusunod yung 5,000 times 1.5. Testingin nyo. 5,000 times 1.5, 7.5, diba? So, una, ang nirecognize mo ng purchase ay yung kapag gamit yung market price mo sa settlement date. Pero dahil ang exercisable naman ay yung 1.5, yun lang din yung mangyayari. 8.5 minus 1 million, 7.5. So, yun. That's for problem 3. For our fourth problem, ito medyo same or similar lang naman na pumasok sa sa forward contract. It's just that in here payable po meron tayo, so okay, let's dig deeper. Dito October 1, kailangan nilang bumili daw ng 8,000 kilos ng Australian lobster sa settlement date na March 31, 2024. So, ginamit lang nila as hedge lang naman yon. Ayun, 1-2, yun ang pagkasunduan nilang bayad. Pero nung December 31, 1,150 yung market price. Tapos nung settlement date ay 1,000. So, in a sense, market price is less than FP, thus giving us payable. Market price ay noong December 31 to 1,150. Ang underlying mo ay 1,2, giving you derivative liability per unit of 50 pesos. Thus, ang total payable mo ay 50 times number of units, 8,000. Tama ba? Tama. So, ito ay 8,000 times 50. That's 400,000. Sa settlement date, 1,000 na lang daw. Tapos 1,2 pa rin. So, derivative liability mo ay per unit 200. So, ang nangyari, ang derivative liability mo nung 31 ay 200 times 8,000. That's 1.6 million. Tapos ito yan, 400. So, in a sense, nagkaroon ka ng magkano? Increase of 1.2 million. Isipin mo, dati 400k lang. Tapos naging 1.6. Di tumaas yung loss mo ng 1.2 million. Pwede na tayong pumunta sa entries. Ayan, yung ibang value naka-automated kasi yan. Pero sa unrealized loss, equivalent lang siya sa loss mo nung December 31. Kasi December 31 date naman to. Which is yung derivative liability natin, di ba? So, ayun, yung 400k. Tapos, sa purchases, ganun lang din. Di kung magkano talaga yung ibabayad, you have 8,000 units multiplied to 1,000 at the very end na market price. So, that is 8 million. Pero, magkakaroon ka ng unrealized loss na 1,2. So, in a sense, yung 1,2 pala yung unrealized loss mo nung 2024. Tapos, yung net loss mo ay 1.6. Kaya, yun yung value dito sa ating pro forma. So, ayun. I hope you guys understand and appreciate our answering the problem.
Now, I hope di pa naman kayo ganun ka-confused sa mga bagay-bagay na na-discuss ko, ano? Sige, let me ask you to shake your hands. Shake muna para magising tayo ng konti, ano? Alright, shake, and... Alright, ready na ba for the next type of hedging instrument? Okay. So, another type of derivative is the futures contracts. Well, by definition, it is a contract to purchase or sell a specified commodity at some future date at the specified price. So, kita nyo na agad yung difference nila. Diba sa forward, sabi ko kanina, lahat specified. Amount, price, maging ang date. Dito, hindi po specified ang date. Why? Because future contracts are traded in a futures exchange market in much the same manner as debt and equity securities being traded in the stock market. So in other words, standard po siya samantalang yung forward ay private contract. And let me illustrate that again for you to further grasp it.
As mentioned earlier, forwards are private or over-the-counter contracts in which the agreement is solely between the long and the short. As such, both parties are exposed to credit risks as either party has the potential to default from the agreement. As the contracts are negotiated, they are usually non-standard to fit the requirements of either party. Forward contracts also tend to be unregulated. In contrast, futures are exchange-traded contracts in which the agreement is with the clearinghouse. The clearinghouse does this by splitting each trade, acting as the opposite side of each position. It acts as the buyer to every seller and seller to every buyer. This system allows either side of the trade to reverse positions at the future date, without having to contact the other side of the initial trade. Traders will be able to reverse or reduce their position with ease. The clearinghouse also acts as the counterparty for each participant. The clearinghouse imposes rules like margins on the participants. This allows the clearinghouse to guarantee that traders in the exchange will honor their obligations. This guarantee removes counterparty risk from futures contracts. To facilitate trading, futures are standard contracts where traders either take the long or short position with standard sizes. Futures markets are usually regulated by the government. The fluidity of future contracts makes them attractive to speculators who want to bet on changes on the price of an asset. Hedgers can also use futures contracts to reduce their risk exposure to the changes in price of an asset. For example, a transport company can buy oil futures to hedge against future increases in oil price. If oil price do increase in the future, the company can sell the oil at the profit, which will soften the increase in operating costs due to increase in fuel prices. If the transport company wished to take delivery of the oil or enter into custom contracts more suited to its needs, the company can turn to forward contracts instead. Besides these differences, there are three terms that apply only to futures. They are open interest, settlement price, and margin. The open interest of any particular futures contract is the total number of outstanding contracts that are held by market participants at the end of the day. It increases when traders enter new long and short positions and decreases when they exceed existing positions. Open interest is therefore a measure of the flow of money into the futures market. Some speculators look for trading signals based on the open interest for the particular asset. Settlement price is analogous to the closing price for a stock, but is not simply the price for the final trade of the day. It is an average of the prices of the trades during the last period of trading called the closing period. So as in this case, even though the final trade of the day was at $88, the settlement price is recorded at the average price of the closing period, which is $76. This specification of the settlement price reduces the opportunity of the traders to manipulate the settlement price. The settlement price is used to calculate the daily gain or loss at the end of each trading day. On its final day of trading, the settlement price is equal to the spot price of the underlying asset. Margin applies to futures contracts but not on forward contracts. Recall that under the futures contract, the clearinghouse is able to guarantee that all parties will honor their obligations. This is achieved through requiring both the long and the short to place an initial deposit known as the initial margin. The initial margin per contract is relatively low as compared to the size of the contract. For example, if the trader longs a futures $100 at this point, an initial margin of $20 may be imposed by the clearinghouse. This initial margin is deposited in the trader's margin account. After the futures contract is obtained, changes in the price of the futures contract result in daily gains or losses. They are credited to or subtracted from the margin account of the contract holder, and this is called the marking to market process.
I hope naging klaro sa inyo yung discussion ng futures contract, ano? From the simple difference up to the more complex nature of futures compared to the forwards, sana mas naging malinaw kung paano sila nagkakaiba, alright? Now, although different in a sense, their accounting is kind of the same lang naman. Right, that's it for our futures contracts, ano? Ayan, Diyos ko, I'm sure feeling bombarded na ulit kayo ng information, ano? But do not worry, because now, nasa last step na tayo ng isa pang derivative, which is the option. I will not hold it any longer na, no? Let's resume our discussion by defining what an option is. An option is a contract that gives the holder the right but not the obligation to purchase or sell an asset at a specified price during a definite period at some future time. It has two types: the put option, or the option that gives the right but not the obligation to sell a particular asset, and the call option, which refers to the right but not the obligation to purchase an asset. Since this is kind of more special and a little different to the other two, option contracts actually requires an initial small payment for the protection against unfavorable movement of price. Such payment to the bank or financial speculator is known as the option premium. Please don't get confused sa option premium at futures margin na na-discuss ko kanina, ano? Remember, futures margin acts as a down payment since futures contracts are obligations. Meaning, paunang bayad lang ito at ibabawas ang binayad mong margin for you to get your outstanding balance. Option premium, however, gives a holder the right to choose whether to exercise the option or not. So, because it's more of a right than an obligation, hindi down payment, but rather separate payment po yung option premium. That means, kapag hindi mo in-exercise ang contract, diretso na siya sa loss on call options and yung pinayad mong option premium. Malinaw ba yun? Malinaw? Okay, here are some classifications that you need to remember. Kapag mas mataas ang market price kaysa sa stock or exercise price, we call it in the money. In, kasi pasok lumagpas pa nga, di ba? Kapag lower naman ang market price kaysa sa option price, we call it out of the money. Out, kulang, kapos. Alright? Kapag naman equal yung market price at option price, it is called at the money. At, kasi sakto lang, walang labis, walang kulang. Now, we'll go straight into the discussion of the pro forma of the computation as well as the journal entries of options kapag in-exercise ito at kapag hindi. Ano, game na ba? Game!
Okay, now is punta naman tayo sa pro forma at computation at journal entries ng option contracts. Tatandaan, kapag options, we have, or the entity or the holder rather, has the option either to exercise or not yung kanyang hawak na option. That's why two cases din ang ating journal entries. Una, kapag in-exercise. So, start date, yan yung date kung kailan mo binili or kung kailan ka nagbayad ng premium, kung kailan ka bumili ng option. So, dahil kung kailan ka bumili ng option, edi i-asset mo, i-debit mo yung call option, tapos yung binayad mong cash ay i-credit. Yun, ang amount nun ay yung kung magkano yung option premium. Again, ang option premium ay ang binabayad para magkaroon ka ng right, but not the obligation to either sell or purchase an asset in the future. So, December 31 ngayon, iti-take into account mo yung unrealized gain na ilalock in mo sa call option. And that's equivalent to the increase in fair value. So, increase in fair value can be computed by, of course, offsetting the fair value of call option, which can be computed by multiplying the number of units to the difference in market price and option price, and the payment for call option, which is the amount of option premium. So their difference is the increase in fair value. That's for 2023 or for the first year. What about next year kung kailan exercisable na din yung options? Yeah, mga option date lang naman yan lahat. First entry nga lang is for you to recognize again this one, a call option and realized gain, but this time on the settlement date. So similar nature with this one, increase in fair value, yun nga lang ay ang gagamitin mong pang multiply ay overall gain per unit. Tapos ang call option mo na is not the option premium, but rather yun na compute mong increase in fair value, or yung call option mo during the reporting date kasi nga nag-report ka na. So increase in fair value yung difference nila. Just have to recognize debit cash, which is equal to the number of units multiplied to the overall gain per unit, and credit call option with similar formula. Dito, raw materials purchases mo ay kapag binili mo gamit ang cash, pasensya na, di ko natanggal to. Pero ayun. Pagdating dito, yung unrealized gain mo ay isasarado mo sa purchases. Bakit? Kasi binili mo or in-exercise mo ang option. Again, ilalock in pag in-exercise ang option. Now, punta tayo ngayon kapag hindi mo in-exercise. Ayan. So, kung papansin nyo, pareho lang to na amount of option premium, basta similar lang. Dito, similar lang din, increase, diba? Dito nga lang, ang nangyari ay mas mababa mas mababa, mas negative. So, kaya hindi mo piniling i-exercise pa kasi mas makakamura ka kung hindi mo na lang i-exercise. Kung bibili ka na sa current time, diba? Kaya, kung dito nilalock in sa purchases, dito raw materials purchases cash. Kung magkano mo binili sa iba na mas mura, yun lang yun. Kaya market price as of that date. Dito, hindi mo na ilalock in yung gain. Ang nangyari dito, i-recognize mo na siya sa loss, which is equivalent sa amount of option premium. So, yun. Yung sum nila ay isasarado mo sa call option. So, sige. Para mas maintindihan, I think magpapaproblem tayo. Ayan. So, punta tayo dito sa... Wait, recording ba? Ayan, recording naman. So, punta tayo ngayon dito sa problems 12-10 and 12-11 kung saan mape-present yung dalawang case. Una, kapag in-exercise at pangalawa, pag hindi. Dito muna sa problem 12-10. So, punta tayo dyan. Pakibasa, pero... Yan, medyo bibilisan ko na, Dito, December 1, ang starting date, kasi dun binili, is 50,000 units. July 1 ang option date or settlement date. Strike price, 100 per kilo. Tapos, 50,000 per call option. And, kapag daw higher than 1,000, ay, 1,000 ata to. Sorry, na typo. Step. Pag higher than 1,000, edi mag-exercise. No. if the market price is 110 nung December, tas 115 in July, magkano yung i-report na derivative asset? So, magkano ba ang market price noong December 31? Sabi, 110. Magkano ang napagkasunduan? 100. O, edi 10 per unit yan. Ang derivative asset mo ay 10 times kung ilan talaga yung number of units, which is 50,000. So, that's 500K. Sulat ko lang dito. So, less mo yung payment for call option na sabi dito ay 50K. No, sorry. 50K. So, in a sense, ang unrealized gain mo ay 450. Pero hindi naman yung tinatanong. Ang tinatanong naman ay derivative asset. So, this is the answer for number 1. Number 2, what amount should be reported as cash settlement from the speculator? Cash settlement, punta kang settlement date, magkano? 115. Tas 100 ang underlying. E di, meron kang derivative asset of 15 peso per unit. Again, ang derivative asset mo dito ay equivalent sa, equivalent sa number of units, 50,000, times yung bagong derivative asset, which is 15. So, in a sense, this is 50,000 times 15. That's 750,000. Call option mo during this one ay ito, di ba? That's 500,000, giving you an increase in unrealized gain of 250,000. Now, ang tinatanong as asset pa rin ay cash settlement, so 750 yung sagot. So, what amount should be reported as cost of purchases? Ayan. Di ba ang purchases natin, ang sabi ko ay ilalock in. Pero sa totoong 50,000 times 115 yan nabili. So, yun pa rin dito. 50,000 times 115. That's 5,750. Pero, meron siyang unrealized gain. Saan galing to? So, unrealized gain ay galing sa 450,000 na unrealized gain. Ayun o. Diba? Tsaka itong 250. So, unrealized gain ng 2023, unrealized gain ng 2024. Kaya cumulative. So, 250 giving us 700,000. So, 7 minus 700,000, 5,050,000, which is letter C. Yan ay kapag in-exercise. Punta tayo kapag hindi in-exercise. So again, ang ditandaan, 200,000 units. Tapos December 1 binili, July 1 ang option date. 20,000 pesos ang call option. Tapos 28 pesos or 25 peso per unit pa lang option price, 28 pesos ang market price noong December 31, 21 pesos naman nung settlement date. What amount should be reported as derivative asset? Kasi may asset naman talaga nung una di ba? 28 to. Tapos 25 to. So 3 pesos. May asset kang 3 pesos per unit before yung una. So, ang derivative asset mo, again, ilang units? 200,000 times 3. Edi, that's 600,000, right? Ilalas mo si call option, which is 20,000. Giving you unrealized gain of 580. But again, derivative asset ang tinatanong. That's why A ang sagot, 600K. Sa loss, ngayon, diba, hindi mo naman in-exercise. So, in a sense, wala kang liability, wala kang other losses. Ang loss mo lang ay Tama. Yung binayad mo as premium, which is 20K. Yan. Dito, again, nabanggit ko, wala na naman siyang derivative liability. Kasi dito, ang sabi ay 21 pesos na lang. Dito, 25. So, negative 4. Dito, pagdating dito, ay wala tayong i-recognize na liability. Kasi, yung option ay hindi i-exercise. Ikaw ba naman, negative na nga. I-exercise mo pa, di ba? Hindi. Eh di, dahil di ka nag-exercise, wala kang utang, wala kang liability. Okay? Pagdating sa purchases, di ba, sabi, ang bagong price ay 21 pesos. So, 200K times 21 pesos, yun po ang magiging bili natin, which is 4,200,000. Kung papansin nyo, siya na din yung cost of purchases. Bakit? Kasi tama, hindi po natin isasara yung option premium sa purchases kasi hindi naman tayo bumili. Hindi natin exercise. So, sa iba tayo bumili. In a sense, separate transaction na yung bawal i-capitalize. Okay? So, I hope clear yun, guys.
There you have it, guys. The other three hedging instruments that are common examples of derivatives. Again, ulit nga, we have the forwards, the futures, and the options. Alright, ang gagaling naman. Well, di pa tayo natatapos dyan dahil we will be having our last part of the discussion, which is about the embedded derivatives. Well, just wanna ask, does any one of you guys know what the word embedded means? Meron? An idea lang? Siguro some of you might say enclose, di ba? Or integrate, or inclusive. Ayan, mga ganyan. So, tama naman. Those are synonymous sa salitang embedded. From those words, meron na ba kayong idea kung ano yung embedded derivatives? Well, let's figure it out together, alright? Alright. Embedded derivative is a component of a hybrid or combined contract with the effect that some of the cash flows of the combined contract vary in a way similar to standalone derivative. Medyo technical ang terms, pero ang sense lang niyan is that it is a financial instrument that is embedded within a host contract. Meaning, it's a component of a financial or non-financial contract that also includes a derivative component. So, may iba't ibang types yan. Nandyan na ang equity conversion option, redemption option, maging investment in bonds. Yes, all of them have this inclusive derivative sa host contract nila. Kapag embedded, hindi naman yun forever na magsistay together. Parang love life lang, di ba? Joke. Aside from that, we have this what we call bifurcation, which is the process of separating an embedded derivative from the host contract. So, this is actually governed by PFRS 9, specifically yung paragraph 4.3.3 na nagsasabing dapat daw ay accounted for separately ang isang derivative kapag na-meet niya yung mga criteria na to. Una, a separate instrument with the same terms as the embedded feature would meet the definition of a derivative. So kapag daw by its nature ay hawig o talagang masasabi mong derivative na talaga siya. Second, the combined contract is not measured at FVPL or fair value through profit or loss. Take note, not measured at the FVPL. Third, the economic characteristics and risks of the embedded feature are not closely related to the economic characteristics and risk of the host contract. So, hindi naman pala na nakaka-apekto pa sa value niya yung pagbabago ng host contracts in response sa economic risks and characteristics. And lastly, 4, the host contract is outside the scope of PFRS 9. So, labas na po ng PFRS. Kapag separated, ina-account po ang embedded derivative at fair value and the host contract is accounted for in accordance with appropriate PFRS. Kapag naman within the scope ng PFRS ang host contract, una, the qualification requirements of PFRS 9 are applied to the combined contract in its entirety, so sa kabuuan. Pangalawa, if the host contract is a financial asset, the embedded derivative is not separated. At panghuli, the host contract in its entirety is measured at the following hierarchy. First, amortized cost. Second, fair value through profit or loss. And then last sa hierarchy ay yung fair value through other comprehensive income. Okay. Right, and there you have it mga ka-Team Yay! Grabe, isa na namang episode ang natapos natin, ano? Well, not gonna lie, but I too feel so exhausted with the information provided in our discussion, ano? Pero I hope ay na-enjoy nyo naman yung naging talakayan natin, right? Kumusta ang learnings? Kumusta ang experience? Share nyo naman yan sa ating comment section and get a chance to meet our very own ates and kuyas here sa Team Yay. Oh, siya, paano? Hanggang dito lang muna ha. See you next week para sa panibagong kaalaman, kasiyahan, at kasanayan dito lang sa Team Yay!